All right, guys, so this week you took the ACT, a full-length ACT test, and it was a pre-test just to give you an idea of where your scores are before you do any preparation or before you do any studying. And so today we're going to spend just a little time talking about the results of your pre-test. By the time we get to the end of the video, I want you to know who looks at your ACT scores, how your scores compare to other students who are taking those scores. I want you to be able to tell me what a good ACT score looks like, and then also understand what the minimum score requirements are for colleges, some popular colleges around here, and then also for specific scholarships. So one of the first things that you need to know is why we take the ACT anyway. What is the purpose of it? And the purpose is really to give some comparative data to colleges when they're looking at you for admissions and for scholarships. You guys know that students who go to different schools might have a different grading scale than we do. GPAs can be very subjective. Class rank can be pretty subjective. And so colleges need a way that's common to compare you to other students who are coming from different places around the state or from around the country. And the ACT provides a venue that's very similar because every student who takes the test on the same day takes the exact same test with the exact same regulations and kind of requirements. And so it gives us a standard, if you will. And so colleges are going to use your test scores to compare you because it's the only piece of evidence that they have that compares you to other people in a fair way and an equal way. And when they look at those scores, they're going to use the numbers to determine a couple different things. One thing that they're going to use the numbers to compare or to determine is, are you able to be a student? So can you be admitted to that college? They also are going to use those numbers to help decide what classes you have to take when you get to college, and then also whether or not you can qualify for some financial aid or scholarships. Now, in the state of Nebraska, the ACT is also our standard or our state test. So when you were younger, you took NISA tests like in 4th grade and 8th grade, and those were the Nebraska state assessments. And so in high school, we don't take NISA anymore, but we do take the ACT, and all of that data is reflected or published then as far as the quality of where we're at as a school. So one of the nice things about the ACT is you're taking it and it benefits you, and it also benefits our school. So it has two really big purposes. Now, a lot of times students will say to me, well, Mrs. Myers, what does a good score look like? How do I know if I'm doing good on the ACT? And good is really relative because it matters what you're looking for, what college you want to go to, what kind of financial aid you're trying to get. And that's different for different schools. And so what probably the best way to determine whether or not your score is good is to kind of see how you compare to other people. And so if you look at the screen in front of me, you can see that the national average for ACT is right about 21. And so that means that if you're getting a 21, half of the students are scoring higher than you and half of the students are scoring lower than you on the ACT. And that 21 number nationally is pretty much standard in all of the content areas. Now, if we look at the state of Nebraska, you can see the state of Nebraska is just a little bit lower than the national average, but still right around that 19 or 20 range. Now, this is pretty important for you to know because when you're applying to colleges and scholarships, especially those schools here in Nebraska, you're competing against a lot of students who are from the state of Nebraska. So knowing what the state numbers are can help you kind of identify where you need to be able to compete with other students from around the state. And then if you take a look at South Sioux City, you can see that our numbers are even a little bit lower than the state average. And what that just says to us is, hey, we've got some things to work for. And so we're not really too worried about this, but you can look at where you are compared to other students here in our school. And again, these are the 2018 ACT test results. So you can see if I'm scoring this or higher, I'm probably doing better than half the kids in our school are doing in English, math, reading, and science, and so forth. And so what our goal is when we're talking about ACT is we want to get all of our students to at least that national average, that 21. And you're going to see a little bit later on that 21 is really a strong target for an average score. And so we certainly don't want to be at the bottom half if we can help that. Now, one of the reasons that colleges are looking at that composite score is that they want to see how you compare to other students for admission. And many colleges have a minimum score requirement to get into college. So if you look at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, their required score for admission is that 21. And Briarcliff here in Sioux City, they have a 19 score. Morningside is 20. The University of South Dakota is a 21. And so what you're going to notice when you go to those schools is that all of the students in that school, for the most part, are going to have an ACT score of that minimum or higher. Now, that's pretty important for you to know as you're applying to colleges, because if you're somebody who has a score of 14 or 15 on your ACT and you end up getting into a college where the requirement was a 21, you can expect the classwork to be pretty rigorous for you. It's going to be more difficult for you because the majority of students are going in with stronger skills in those math, science, reading, and some English content areas than maybe you demonstrated on your ACT. Now, in addition to college admissions, colleges use your ACT score to figure out which classes you have to take. And so there's a specific score in ACT that's called your College and Career Readiness Benchmark. And what this means is that if you can score a certain number on your ACT or a certain score on your ACT, you're very likely to be successful in a freshman college class that correlates with that subject area. So for example, if you can score an 18 in English on the ACT, what that means is that you have a 50% chance or higher of getting a B in English composition class, or a 75% chance of getting a C or higher in your English composition class as a freshman in college. If you can score a 22 on the ACT math, that means that you are likely to get a B or a C in college algebra. And so colleges are using those numbers to decide whether or not you're ready for the rigor of a college class. Now, what happens if you're not ready for that is that a college might say, hey, you don't have a 21, so on your ACT, but we're going to let you in anyway. And because you didn't reach these college benchmark scores, we're going to let you in, but you're going to have to take some remedial coursework. You're going to have to take some what we call high school do-over classes before you can take the college level classes that are required in your major. Now, the problem with that is you have to pay for them. It takes you more time because you have to take additional classes to get through your major. And so you're going to pay for those classes, and it's going to take you more time. So it's going to be kind of expensive to take these high school do-over classes, and we want to avoid that at all costs. And so what our true goal is on the ACT is to make sure that we are scoring all of these college and readiness benchmark scores so that we can be guaranteed not to take high school do-over classes. And if you score in all of these college benchmark scores, you're going to have that 21 average. That is kind of a standard for admissions in a lot of colleges. Now, the other thing that colleges use your ACT score is to determine whether or not you can qualify for merit-based scholarship. Merit-based scholarship just means grades, the amount of money you get for your grades or for your scores. And so I gave you just a couple of examples here about the amount of scholarship that's available at some of the local colleges. But what I want you to see even more is that just a couple of points when you get to these merit-based scholarships can translate to quite a bit of money. So notice that at UNL, if you have a 32 on your ACT, you can qualify for a free tuition scholarship or a full tuition scholarship. You can apply for a full tuition scholarship. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get it. But notice just 2 points lower, it's $3,500 a year. So that's a huge jump just for a 2-point scholarship. And then 3 points lower than that, you get $1,500 less a year. The other thing about merit-based scholarships is I want you to understand that there's not one single score that qualifies you for merit at all colleges. So if you look at Morningside, you can see that their highest scholarship, the $20,000 a year scholarship, is a 31 on the ACT. Now that's lower than UNL's highest scholarship. And so different colleges have different ACT requirements for They're merit-based scholarships. So you want to make sure that you're talking to your admissions counselor at your college so that you know what's the max ACT score or what's the ACT score I need to be looking at to get any sort of merit-based financial aid that you might be considering or hoping for. All right, so for today's assignment, I want you to take the information that we covered in this video, especially this video or this slide here, and you're going to add this to that Understanding Your Numbers worksheet. And then there's a couple of questions for you to answer in regards to your own score compared to these. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email. I'll be glad to answer them for you.